Let's look at the VIX for a moment. And that's when we were up in here, like at 23. Is it going to go to 20? Is it going to go sub 20? Well, look where we are now. We're now in the teens. We're back into 18 again. And we on the 195 chart, that's a half a day, we are absolutely oversold. So this does set up a condition where potentially the VIX could rebound from here and at least come up here to fill the gap. If that happens, it slows this insanity down, at least temporarily. And is that a trade that we want to put on? Do we want to put on something that could account for at least an oversold bounce in the VIX, which would bring this, crazy move at least down to here? And then, as mentioned earlier, there is a gap here, at least down to here, back down to like 5,700. So, we do have Thursday's reports. So just keep an eye that we have the yields are up and not in a good way. That's bad. We are now oversold here with a potential for this. So that's not necessarily good for the markets. We're extended. We just popped up above the 200. So that's good for the markets. Hard to say, and it's not even overbought yet. Hard to call this a topping pattern just yet. Although you are at the upper Bollinger. Doesn't mean you can't stay there. NVIDIA running right into a resistance level, a big one. Apple right at the 50. See, it feels like, it looks like, dollar coming off a little bit. It feels like we might be at a point where the markets pull back a little bit from this big move. And is that tradable? Is that a tradable move? Do we want to put something on small to see if there is a gentle pullback? And if we do that, do we want to hedge it just in case we're wrong? So there's two ways to go about that. One is you trade with such a small allo that there's no need for a hedge, right? If my average allocation is, say, $300 per trade, and I have a few trades on long, a few trades short, whatever it is, and I go, you know what? I'm going to take a bet that I think the markets are going to pull back a little bit. And so I'm going to put a small vert on, like, scooch this back down here. I don't know, 585, 580. Just, I'll watch how the markets react. I do see gold coming up, so that's bearish. I do see an extreme level of put call. That's bearish. I see the yields up. That's bearish. And I see the VIX at an inflection point, like a oversold condition. So that's bearish. Everything else is bullish. So there are some bearish indicators. Do I throw this on? So as I said, there's two ways to do it. One is you do small allo. So instead of my normal 300, maybe I only do, 150 to 200, just to put something out there for this Friday. Small trade, make a little bit of money. Why not? If I do that, no need for hedge. If I go in a little heavier and go into next week, which I would not suggest, with something like a 10 wide, this would be for next Friday, a week from. Then maybe it makes sense to have, a little TZA action, maybe, right? So we might want to do a TZA put or something as a little bit of a hedge. But if you're doing a small allo, there's no need for one. That clear? Yeah, Grant, and don't, just because you got stung once and then you benefited the next time, don't feel like you have to hedge every single trade, because if you do that, the cost of your trades is going to increase between, say, 15 and 20%. And if you increase the cost of your trades by, say, 20% over the course of a year, it is going to be that will dampen your equity curve quite a bit when it could have been like this. So just be clear about that. Gold, as I said, came off, but we're up. Gold is now moving up a little bit. Interesting. Certainly hit a point here in NVIDIA. But hard to short it, though. Now, having said that, maybe we short NVIDIA. But if you're going to do that, if you are going to short NVIDIA, then I would, if it's something like this, like you're really just taking a shot that maybe it hit resistance, it's going to come down and try to fill a gap. So if you're going to do that, you do something like 125, 120 for next week. What's next week? 523. So if you did NVIDIA 125, 120 puts for next week, then I would build in a little bit of a hedge in case you're wrong. Yeah, I am not concerned about the earnings at the moment. All right, so we kind of looked through this. Nothing else here really that I'm interested in. I do want to just comment about BABA. Obviously, with the China news, that helps. And BABA had a nice pop, kind of held its ground here, and it popped up, and it's pulled back ever so slightly. It came back a little bit. It's possible that with news out of China, okay, we got to pause. Yay, that's great for everybody. But we are still pushing tariffs on them, and they are lowering tariffs on us. So I like BABA long term. I like it, I shouldn't say long term. I like it medium term to here. But with the profits that we had accumulated from the position, does it make sense to hold it all the way into next week? What if this pulls back to the 50 over the next week? And then our profits goes from 50, 60% down to 10 or 15%. And then we're going into next week where we get theta decay that burns off premium. That doesn't make sense, right? So part of your trading plan should be, if you're in a trade, and our trade was, was it 126, 130? Price is at where? 132 now. So we already hit the short strike. That's the target. Do we have 100% profit? No, because we still have plenty of premium left because we have a week and a half to go. But target hit, technical target was hit. Makes sense to me to have in my trading plan once a technical target is hit and it looks like a potential pullback plus theta decay could erode my profits. I'm going to bank my profits and then look to reload again. So what I'd really like to see is a pullback, at least a gap closure. So let's just see where that gap is, and then I'll show you the setup for the next trade. It's right here, isn't it? 127.77. Let's call it 128. I'd love to see it pull back to 128, because if it does and holds, then I'd like to do the 130, 135 and go out 2 weeks. Same idea. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions on the BABA trade? Why we did what we did and what we can be looking at? Any questions there? One more time, please. One more time on what? You do know you can rewatch these on BABA. Yeah, I know, on BABA. What I said was what I'd like to see is a gap fill. I'd love to see it pull back now that I'm out of the trade. And if it can pull back and fill this gap and then hold, then I'd be interested in putting on a new trade at 130, 135, or whatever you want. That seems like a good trade to me for, the 30th or even the 23rd, or the 30th. I don't want to get it now because what it has done is, if I look at this is the 195. Yeah. If I look at the 195 chart, which is brilliant, I love this chart. This is a half a day chart. Look what happened. Like overbought on the half a day, pullback. Slightly, but pullback. Right? Overbought and at the upper Bollinger Band, pullback. Right? So if this is going to pull back a little bit, I'd rather it pull back, either to the 20 period moving average on the 195 or close to the 50 period moving average on the daily, or at minimum, close this gap to the downside. And if it does that, then I'd be interested potentially of taking the next trade, which is the 130, 135 vertical. It's got earnings in 2 days. Great. So even more reason to be out of the trade. Wait for earnings. Wait to see if it pulls back.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video from Trade With Me Now. Make sure to go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel so you make sure that you catch our next video right when it's released. Also, if you have a question or comment, please leave that in the comment section below. And of course, if you want to learn more about Trade With Me Now or join our community of profitable traders, go to tradewithmenow.com. There's also a link in the description below.